Absolutely. And again, as you said, if the races were reversed, if you had here a black victim, a white perpetrator, and a white perpetrator referring to the race of the victim, you're telling me people aren't going to be talking about it. They're not going to be noting the racial element. Now, Democrats, including Roy Cooper, are seeking to highlight mental health issues, the lack of policing. But this particular perpetrator had plenty of contact with police, didn't he, CJ?
He exactly did. And let's also talk about the fact that it's the Democrats who've called for the defunding of the police. It's the Democrats who've called for less policing in our communities. It's the Democrats right now who are fighting against President Trump to secure America's greatest and once beautiful cities. And so, it's ironic to hear this from them, but honestly, it's out of survival that they're now starting to say this, right? They realize that the American public are not with them. The American public want to live in safe and secure communities. They don't want to live in fear on their public transportation as they walk down the sidewalk. And so, yeah, it's actually not surprising to me to hear Roy Cooper change his tune, but it's a day short and a dollar late. And I got to tell you, I think the American people are going to hold him accountable for it. And this is a man who, by the way, is running for U.S. Senate right now in the state of North Carolina. And I got to tell you, this is going to hang around his neck like an albatross.
Now, CJ, what is happening with the job data in the US? I saw the Bureau of Labor Statistics revise down the job numbers by some 900,000 for 2024, 2025. How many jobs created under the Biden administration have now been revised away? They never really existed.
It's looking like upwards of a million. And, similar to the way in which they've cooked the books for the MPD in the city of DC, where they're reporting less violent crime that's actually then occurring, we're actually seeing the same thing with these BLS statistics, which is absolutely unfortunate, which actually underscores the importance of performing or in confirming, an incredible guy like EJ Antony, who is a Heritage Foundation scholar, to replace the former Biden appointee who was in the position before. It's actually a shame to see, but I guarantee it's just not surprising at this point. Everything the Biden administration did seems to have been in an attempt to cover just how much of a failure their entire political agenda was.
To Florida now and the federal trial of Ryan Routh, who faces charges for attempting to assassinate President Donald Trump. This has occurred back at his West Palm Beach Golf Club in September 2024, not long after the first assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. CJ, the judge in this case has excluded potential jurors for any self-declared biases. One woman who said, "I am MAGA," was eliminated as a potential juror. But that does make me wonder how many others are quiet about their affiliations, whatever they may be. And what more do we know about this alleged assassin, Ryan Routh? It seems like we've learned very little since September 2024.
I'm definitely, curious about the political affiliations of those jurors as well, but also too, to your point, who exactly is Ryan Routh and why was he motivated to do what he did? We haven't heard much about that. Hopefully, Cash Patel and the good folks at the FBI are taking a hard look at that, and we will learn more. But I think that the American people are desperate to actually, get a lot more insight into his motivations as to why he did what he did, and to ensure that he gets the fair punishment that he deserves here in this case.
His background, his recent history is pretty interesting and perplexing, really, where he got the funds from to do some of the things he was doing when he didn't seem to have any sort of meaningful employment for a period of time. Have you found out anything more about that, or are we hopefully going to get some understanding during the trial?
Hopefully we'll get it from the trial. I think that's the thing. I think people are scratching their heads as to exactly how we found the means, how we have the resources to do this, but also to what drove him to do it. He's a very erratic and irate person. Some are saying mental illness, but I think that there is a deep desire to learn more about him and what his motivations were and what his motive was. And so hopefully we will get those answers. But I think, unfortunately, now details are quite scant.
Well, we know next to nothing about the Butler attempted assassin who was killed after his assassination attempt against Donald Trump. And it's incredible how little we know about that particular individual. Now, good news for Donald Trump and Melania. Barron is moving back into the White House. And CJ, Barron was invaluable for the Trump camp in helping formulate the strategy to reach young men. He really, I think, served a very important role throughout the election campaign. He encouraged President Trump to go on podcasts of popular personalities, some the president had never heard of before Barron's intervention. And it's worth noting this horrible murder we spoke about in North Carolina would have been on the president's radar much earlier if Barron was around, because the president learnt about it 48 hours after it really went viral on X and other social media platforms.
You know, we love having, Barron here, in DC, and we love to see that he's going to be in the White House. I'm going to tell you, this is a guy who has his finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. And so I think he's going to be an invaluable advisor to his father as he navigates, of course, the upcoming years of his presidency. And as you pointed out, he was an integral piece to his return to the White House. And so I think that he'll continue to serve that incredible role. But, again, I think what the president is really leading on right now is doing all that he can to get information from wherever he can, but also to act on it effectively. And already, I think he's taking action to ensure that what happened in Charlotte never happens again. And God bless him for it, because there is no reason that should happen in a civil and polite society at all, anywhere in this country.
Well, let's just hope the law and order crackdown that we're hopefully going to see in America's big cities really see some meaningful long-term change, because they have just deteriorated so much. And even as a tourist who goes to the US very regularly, you can see that decay. Each time you visit, those big cities seem to be a little worse. Now, CJ, we covered the baseball Karen story earlier in the week, the woman who became among the most despised on the internet for about 24 hours after berating a father and son for taking a home run baseball she somehow thought belonged to her. She did get the baseball given to her. Well, the father in that viral footage, Drew Feltwell, wants people to leave her alone and not try to get her fired. He said, CJ, the internet has already messed her up pretty good. He's not wrong there.
No, he's not wrong, but I will tell you, Rita, he is a better man than me, because I guarantee you, I would have kept the ball and I would have said, keep going. So he, I don't know, maybe he is a better man than me. I'll leave it at that.
Well, yeah, he's obviously a very charitable person. But I've got to get your opinion on this, because then we did get a bit of blowback earlier in the week when discussing this, because I thought his move to give the ball to her, to give into the bullying in front of his son, was a poor move. He should have stood his ground. She had absolutely no right to demand that ball. And I think just because it happened in front of his son, it left a bad taste in my mouth. People said that was a bit harsh. What's your take on this? Do you think he did the right thing in the moment in giving that ball back?
Well, Rita, I guess they're going to have to hate both you and me, because I agree with you. I think he should have kept that ball. I think he should have. I don't know. I don't understand why he gave it back. I think I saw an argument online where it was basically that, it just goes to show that sometimes you can't give people, the attention of the time of day. I think that you also have to show your son when to stand on business and not to relent in the face of someone who is just being unreasonable and absolutely crazy and insane. And that is what I saw in that video. And so I wish he would have kept that ball, and I think his son would have appreciated it. But, of course, everyone has their own parenting style, and I'll leave that to him.
Yep, sometimes you've got to stand on business. CJ Pearson, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.